daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Daily Newcastle podcast, your one-stop shop for all things black and white, and proud to be part of the Global Sports Podcast Network. My name is Michael Grahamslaw and this is your match review for Newcastle's trip to Bournemouth, which was arguably the most boring game in history. Yes, this is more than the first time I've said that this season. Seems to become a regular thing for Newcastle on the road, but ended 0-0. It is a good point away to Bournemouth, so there are reasons to be positive, but it just feels like Newcastle United cannot score goals at the moment, and that is a big problem. Not as bad as Aston Villa's problem for scoring goals, which also ended in their draw at Sunderland, but it's starting to feel like Newcastle United are really going to struggle to score goals this season. I'll get into the game in a moment, but let's start with the starting lineup for Newcastle. 7 changes made from the team that were beaten by Barcelona. And a change in system with that as well, from the 4-3-3 to the 5-2-3. So the 7 changes, starting at the back, Fabian Schär and Kieran Trippier were out. Schär for obvious reasons. Kieran Trippier likely rested. It saw Sven Botman, Malik Chow and Lewis Hall come in as we switched from a back 4 to a back 5, as I previously said. I said on the preview that I did think that it could happen. I actually didn't think it would be something that Eddie Howe would do, but I thought switching to the back 5 was a good move, and I said so on the preview. So it was good to see at the start of the game. I've got a rough idea of what I'm talking about, at least, which I do question sometimes. I can't lie, but yeah, I think it's one of those. Malik Chow and Sven Botman. I think asking just one of them to come in. Sven Botman very likely could do so, but Eddie Howe likes having 2 centre backs, different foot, one left foot, one right foot. So back 5, including Malik Chow in there. Putting Malik Chow in for his first start, probably a little bit too early for Eddie Howe. Both played well, to be honest, alongside each other. I think they'll be our centre-back partnership in the future, so wasn't a surprise they both came in together. And then Lewis Hall, we've been crying out for him to come back into the team because we know the talent that he does have, but just it's one of those also we haven't really seen it yet this season. So it was good to see him come back in. And then in midfield, it was Lewis Miley, who came in for Bruno Guimaraes. Joe Willock came in for Joe Linton, although Willock did end up being utilised more as a left winger. Feels a bit odd that both Bruno and Joe Linton needed to be rested after Barcelona, but what I will say in Bruno's defence is obviously he came back from Brazil game. They played late against Bolivia. Then he started at the weekend against Wolves when we thought he might have been rested. So he is due a rest, but I was surprised to see Joe Linton not start the game as well, as I would have thought he would have been excellent on that left-hand side. But House sees them every day. I don't. If he says they need a rest, I say aye, and we get on with it. I was interested to see how Miley would do, but Willock doesn't fill me with any confidence these days. And I really hope he proves me and many others wrong, but the time's sort of running out on that, I think. And then up front, it was probably the most obvious change of the lot. Nick Vultomada came in for Gordon. Gordon was suspended, so completely different team to Barcelona, and we played a completely different way as well. So going into the game, Bournemouth were the brighter of the two, didn't create much on our side, but they had the one chance from Tyler Adams, which Nick Pope saved with his legs. I thought it was really quite a slow game, but that favoured us in if that makes sense. When Bournemouth have possession, they do really struggle to break teams down. We knew that, so we set up in our back 5. We grew into the game more and more. We let them have the control at the start, knowing that there wasn't really too much they would do to us. And then it was when we would grow into the game where they would become more dangerous. Unfortunately, that didn't really happen all that much. And as you can see, it ended 0-0. So, yeah, there's a reason for that. But, yeah, other than the Adams effort, Bournemouth did come close. through Brooks, who actually scored, tightly offside, decent finish as well. But it's one of those where it was, I don't want to say obviously offside, but he gets the advantage because he's offside. So we'll let the defence off there. We set out to slow the game down. What we did, we were great at it. And then after 10 minutes, we almost were the better team. It's hard to say a better team when both teams were pretty poor. There was no quality on the ball. And I think when you play a 5 at the back, you need the 5 in front of them to have, even your wing backs as well, really, to have a lot of quality on the ball. And, well, it was the opposite, to be honest. There was really no quality at all. But getting in at half-time with a 0-0 against Bournemouth, you're very happy about that, particularly when you've made 7 changes like we did. I will say one thing. There was a big moment in the first half. Sandro Tonali handball. The cross comes in. It sort of hits Tonali. He is blocking his face. But it's one of those where I think if the referee gives it, it's not getting overturned. But the fact that he didn't give it, it's not getting overturned either. It's one of those that, let's say you've got a scale here, 40% this way, the referee's given a penalty. 40% that way, the referee's not given a penalty. And that 20% in the middle is referee's discretion. Bit like cricket. When there's a wicket, if they're not entirely sure by the footage, goes to the umpire's decision. And that's exactly what it was with referees today with that Tonali decision. There's one later in the game that I think is exactly the same, but I'll get to that as well. I thought first half we were looking at it and going, you know what, we are actually the better of the two sides. We need to do a bit more creatively. But if we can bring on Barnes and Alanga, then start to be a little bit more creative, it could be a very, very good game for us. We'll get to that. But I think in the first half, a lot of people will say we gave Bournemouth a bit too much respect. Maybe even more so in the second half. I think we played into their hands if we didn't give them that respect, because they do like playing fast, direct on the break. There's a reason they're in the top 4 at this stage of the season. Won 3 before they came to us. The only game they'd lost was late at Liverpool. It is a good point. A 0-0 at half-time was certainly good. 0-0, not bad, but it ain't quite bionic.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bionic, the world's most personalised supplements. Bionic provide 100% tailor-made supplements, designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bionic. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now. Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network is...
It is unique. And to be honest, if that happened twice, you'd hope we'd have 2 shots on the ball. No, we've heard more of the advert than we actually saw shots on target in this game. And unfortunately, there wasn't a single one for us in the second half. I was hoping the speed at which I went to the advert would also indicate, it'd be representative of the speed that Newcastle will get forward. No, we sat back, we absorbed pressure. The one good build-up that we did have in the entirety of the second half was Vultomada, where it ends up, at Vultomada in the box. He takes a touch, he's got his back to goal, he's ready to lay it off, and Diakite pulls him. That was the only real thing of note that happened in the entirety of the second half. But it is similar to the Tonali one for me, where if it's given, it's not overturned, but because it hasn't been, it's not a penalty. Also not overturned. You thought the tempo was going to grow between the 55th and the 60th minute. Tempo started to flare a little bit. And then the substitutions almost turned the game the other way. We brought on Barnes and Alanga for Willock and Murphy, and you're thinking, well, they can't play worse than Willock and Murphy. They're 2 quick players. Surely we're going to see a bit more of an attacking threat from Newcastle. Yeah, there was virtually none. And Bournemouth brought on Justin Clivert for David Brooks. Ryan Christie came on for Alex Scott. and then nothing really happened before they brought on Amin Adli later on in the game as well. So, it was very, very quiet second half. I thought the referee it was really strange performance, actually. There was a lot of times where there was actual real contact on the player on the ball and he wouldn't give a foul. And then there would be moments where there would be like the slightest touch and it wouldn't impact the player at all, but he would give a foul. And I'm not saying that was just for Newcastle, it was for both teams. And I think both teams are probably finished the game a little bit annoyed at the referee for just how he refereed the game. There wasn't anything that was a massive calamity, to be honest. I think both teams will feel like they should have had a penalty. I think both, again, could have gone either way. There was no calamitous errors, but it was just a really, really strange refereeing performance. But one that he'll probably not have to watch back because no one's going to watch that 90 minutes again. I think the only thing in the second half, I think Bournemouth fans actually will have more of a reason to be aggrieved than Newcastle. Malik Chow should have been sent off. Picked up a yellow card for a deliberate handball. I mean, it's a bit shoulder, bit arm. Picked up a yellow card for that. It was deliberate, obviously. Rightfully so. And then towards the end of the game, I think it was the 82nd minute, something like that, maybe 80th. I think it's Christie gets the ball, he knocks it through. Miley tries to take him down and looks ridiculous doing so. No physicality there whatsoever. He just brushed it off. I might have been thinking the Semenyo decision there, but yeah, we was far too weak in the challenge. The Miley one comes to mind. And it's one of those where Christie puts it through the legs of Malik Chow. Chow just sort of holds him up. There are players around him, which I think is the saving grace there. But if you're a Bournemouth fan, you're looking at it and going, there is a chance that he's through and on goal. I don't think he's getting ahead of the other defenders. So he would have been starting that, but Bournemouth could have easily had a man advantage for the last 10 minutes of the game. But yeah, nothing really happened. Dreadful game. I think the only thing worse than that game, that game and the Leeds game, is the sing your heart out for the lads chant, because it is the most tin pot thing I've seen or heard since, Fulham and Leicester introduced clappers for the fans to use because they couldn't create enough noise on their own. If you're going to create an atmosphere, at least do it the right way rather than go, we've got nothing else to sing, so yeah, let's just sing our hearts out. But yeah, I think with that, I'm going to go into a second advert. In fact, you know what? No, we're not. First one, we got it twice. So I'm going to go straight into player ratings. If you do want to see more from Zencastr, there's a link in the show description. But player ratings, I haven't really got too much to say about the other players that would justify it being a whole part. So we're going to do player ratings here. Be sure to check out Zencastr in the show description. They've saved our bacon so many times over the last year or so while I've been doing this pod. But yes, player ratings for Newcastle versus Bournemouth. Nick Pope, 6.5. I think he had very little to do. 2 decent saves to stop Adams and Kluivert at the start and the end of the game. But distribution was absolutely shocking and was a large reason as to why we couldn't get going when trying to build from the back at times. I think when Sven Botman's taken your goal kicks early in the game, fully aware of how bad you are at kicking. Livramento, I'm going to give him a 6.5 as well. Solid performance, looked a little tired, defended solidly, but didn't really have the same impact we're used to seeing. He wasn't really getting up and down the flank like we normally see. So the 3 centre-backs, Malik Chow, I'll go first with Malik Chow because he's going to be the lowest. Could have been the highest if he was taken off in the 70th minute. But up until then, I'd probably have given him an 8.5. I'm going to give him a 7. It was a very silly handball, really unnecessary, and the loss of composure at the end, 160 seconds later or so. He could have been sent off, and that could have been what cost us. And I think you wouldn't mind if we're an attacking team, but considering we're struggling to score goals, mistakes like that can really cost you. Sven Botman, I'm going to give an 8. There's a reason we call him the Rolls Royce. We don't look like conceding a goal when he plays. He's an absolutely excellent defender. His distribution wasn't bad either. Evan Nielsen didn't get a sniff, and quite often he was getting in front of his man, winning the ball back, but just we couldn't capitalise on it. And then Dan Burn, I'm gonna give one man of the match with an 8.5. Absolute colossus. In fact, the Colossus himself would be envious of Dan Burn. An absolutely excellent performance again. When you're looking to defend a point or a lead, there isn't a better defender in the world than Dan Burn. Wins every header that comes into the box. As soon as the ball goes near him, you're guaranteed to win the ball back, or at least have a chance at a second ball when he heads it clear. I haven't seen the stats for clearances or all that sort of stuff, but I know from seeing the game he was absolutely fantastic. So Dan Burn, 8.5, absolutely brilliant once again. Could well be our player of the season again in 2025-26. Then on to the last defender, Lewis Hall. Overall, I thought he was quite poor. Had some good moments in the game, but I thought he was really sloppy in possession. You know what? He played like someone who was returning from injury, and it was their first start in a while. And the reason for that is probably because that was the case. So I don't think he was good enough on the ball. But defensively, I actually thought he was okay. He was decent, did a job. And I'll be honest, it wasn't the best performance, but I am going to give him a 6 because it was lackluster and probably not what we've come to expect. But I think we'll see a lot better from Hall in the next few weeks because there is a great player in there. And then another player who has the potential to be a great player, hasn't really cut the mustard, Lewis Miley. I'm going to give him a 6 as well. And I really can't be convinced that Lewis Miley is good enough to start Premier League games for Newcastle United. Off the ball, his movement's really poor. There was moments in that second half where our players were literally pushing him out the way to get to the ball. And he's just a bit slow to react, unfortunately. In the first half, I thought we were seeing a bit... He's almost turned into a bit of a Longstaff where he's passing sideways or backwards. And the Lewis Miley that we saw years ago, maybe he's better suited as more of a number 10. But it seems like that player signed for someone else because we haven't seen him for a while in a Newcastle shirt. And I really hope that changes because he has shown the potential to be a phenomenal player. But I haven't seen it since that season he broke through, if I'm being completely honest. And if he has shown it, it's been against games against lower league opposition where, the signs are there, but he's just not doing it for us. And he was poor today. It's a real shame because I don't want to say these things about him, but yeah, at the minute he's not good enough. I think he needs to be loaned out. And I think if we weren't in Europe this season, he probably would have been. Then Sandro Tonali, one of the only players that actually had any attacking threat for Newcastle, was decent off the ball as well. He tried to make things happen. He's one of the only players I can actually remember having a shot in the game for Newcastle. I generally think it was just him and Jacob Murphy. I could be wrong. Didn't quite come off for him today, but I'm going to give him a 7. He was the only one that was actually able to dictate any attacking tempo for us, move the ball forward with a bit of pace. Looked good player. Was definitely the best of the front the front 5, should I say. In fact, best out of the back 3. So best except the back 3, should I say. 100%. So there was no one on Tonali's level outside of that, and it was really clear. As for the two wingers, should we say, Joe Willock, I'll start off with. Utterly ineffective. Jamal Lascelles had more of an impact on the game, and he was only on the pitch for 10 minutes. Bradford's going to be a massive game for Joe Willock. If he can put in a performance like he did Birmingham last year, then I think he might be trusted a little bit more going forward. But a few more bad performances off the bench, and I don't think you'll see Joe Willock too much in a Newcastle shirt going forward because he really needs to start doing something. And yeah, I can't remember the last, other than that Birmingham game, I can't remember any other good games for Joe Willock. So yeah, it's a it's a sad one again because under Brucey he was one of our better players, but we've evolved and he hasn't, unfortunately. Jacob Murphy. I wasn't impressed by Murphy in the slightest, but he was arguably one of our only positive attacking threats. It was a poor performance overall, but I thought that every time we lost the ball in that first half, it was either Jacob Murphy who had took the touch before or it was at his feet. It just felt like every time the ball went towards him, he was losing it a lot more frequently than he needed to. When he did get a bit of space, he was putting in some decent crosses, but really wasn't impressed. I'll give him a 6. Lucky to not be a 5.5, to be honest. Then we have the striker. Not really a striker by the looks of it. Nick Vultomada, who I do have to say has great, intricate little touches. As a number 10, I generally think he could be absolutely excellent for Newcastle. But in a game where we need a striker, I don't want you having touches on the halfway line. And it's not too dissimilar to how we played against Wolves. But against Wolves, at least there was enough of a threat in the box by him. In games like today, where there was absolutely no threat whatsoever, it is really difficult to argue he should be in that number 9 spot. I would love to see him in the number 10, just behind, with Johan Wisser in front after the next international break. I think that could be absolutely brilliant. But again, today, the first touch, intricate passes where he's under a bit of pressure, he's got players behind him, and it just takes one touch to get it into the path of an on-Russian player like a Livramento. He is absolutely fantastic at them, but he's not quite a number 9 for me. I'll give him a 6.5. If there was a bit more of an attacking threat by him, he'd probably get a 7.5. But I don't think he had a shot today, and I don't think he got close. So, yeah, very impressive overall, but not as a striker. And then Alanga and Barnes, I'm just going to give them both 5.5s. Not good performances at all. They weren't able to make an impact. They looked poor. They both had little glimpses on the ball where you thought, oh, maybe they can get something done here. Barnes, it's probably a bit harsh giving Barnes the same as Alanga, actually. He was a little bit better. I'll give Barnes a 6. He beats a couple of men at one point in the second half, gets through, and then James Hill, the Bournemouth right back, puts in a brilliant challenge to stop him getting a shot away. That would have been an excellent moment for him. It was a really good bit of play by Barnes. So yeah, I'll give Barnes a 6. I'll give Alanga a 5.5. But yeah, overall lacked imagination. They didn't really make much of an impact, and I thought they were quite poor. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Football's full of opinions, and to be honest, I like to hear all of them. Yes, even that one you're thinking about right now from Twitter from some absolute heed babal. But that's all from us. If you agree or disagree, as I mentioned, let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, because there is more content than just me, I promise. And you'll see that tomorrow.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.